I'm Daphne and Get That, and welcome back to GME Compass, where we turn the complexities of GME into clarity. What does a program coordinator actually do all day? It's one of the most common questions that I hear from new coordinators, program directors, or even people outside of GME. My family probably couldn't tell you exactly what I do all day. My dad says I just talk all day. The answer isn't as simple as like scheduling meetings or answering emails. A coordinator's day is made up of dozens of activities that are happening simultaneously. You sit down at your desk Monday morning. Before you've even finished your first cup of coffee, you've reviewed duty hours, you've checked evaluation completion, you've responded to resident questions, you've reviewed your calendar, and have probably added about 3 new tasks to your to-do list. I'm sure this sounds familiar. In today's episode, we're going to walk through what a typical coordinator's workday often looks like, from setting priorities in the morning and monitoring the health of the program to managing requests, handling tasks, following up on action items, and then balancing the many responsibilities that compete for your attention throughout the day. We have no financial disclosures. Content shared by GME Compass is based on our own personal experiences in graduate medical education and our own professional insight. The perspectives that we share are our own, and they do not represent the views of any institution or organization that we are or have been affiliated with. So let's take a look at what we're going to cover in today's episode. We're going to walk through what the coordinator's workday often looks like, explore the behind the scenes work that supports resident and faculty and program operations, and then also discuss how coordinators manage the competing priorities while still keeping the program moving. By the end of this episode, you will have a better understanding of what the coordinator workday actually looks like and why the role is so critical to the success of the program. One of the first things new coordinators that you will quickly learn is that there really isn't a typical day in GME. While the responsibilities do repeat throughout the year, no 2 days are the exact same. Priorities can shift quickly based on resident, faculty, program, or GME needs, GME office needs. A resident has questions, a faculty needs help setting up a sim, a meeting gets added to your calendar, or now that deadline that you had is suddenly now becomes a priority because it's been pushed up. Because of this, successful coordinators, we learn to stay organized, adaptable, and focus on what needs our attention the most. While every program is different, there are common patterns and workflows that most coordinators experience regardless of the specialty or your program size. To better understand what a coordinator's day actually looks like, let's start at the beginning of the workday and walk through the activities that typically shape a coordinator's day. So let's start with what many coordinators do when they first arrive at work. Before jumping into a task, meeting, or emails, it is important to understand what actually requires your attention that day. It's going to seem like everything. For most coordinators, the morning begins with reviewing the calendar, checking upcoming deadlines, identifying any meetings, events, or any deliverables that need to be prioritized. Personally, one of the first things that I do, even till now, is review my schedule for the week. And that helps me create my tasks. I look at what must get done today, what can wait, and whether there are any deadlines approaching that require immediate attention. At this stage, I'm not solving any problems yet. I am simply identifying what requires attention and creating a plan for the day ahead. Only after that I've assessed what my priorities are do I begin actually going through my emails. I've learned that if I let my inbox drive my day, it is easy to spend hours responding to messages without even making any meaningful progress on any important tasks. Taking a few intentional minutes at the start of your day is really going to help create a roadmap for everything that follows. It allows you to focus on what is the most important before the meetings, the interruptions, and the unexpected requests that inevitably are going to start coming in. So once I've reviewed my priorities for the day, the next step is making sure that there aren't any issues within the program that do require my immediate attention. Part of our job is continuously monitoring the health of our programs. Depending on the day, this may include reviewing evaluation completion, checking on duty hours, monitoring conference or didactic attendance, following up on resident requests, or tracking any outstanding action items. The goal isn't to review every report every day. It is to establish a monitoring process that's going to help you identify issues before they become bigger problems. It's easier to address small issues today than a major issue next month. This type of monitoring often happens behind the scenes, but it does play a critical role in keeping the program organized, compliant, and running smoothly. So once I've reviewed my priorities and checked the overall health of the program, it's now time to start working through those incoming requests. For most coordinators, the inbox quickly becomes one of the busiest parts of the day. Questions and requests come from residents, faculty, chief residents, applicants, GME office, the clinical sites, your program leadership. Some emails can be answered quickly, others become tasks, meetings, or follow up items that require additional work. Not every email requires your immediate action, but every email requires a decision. Do I need to respond? Do I need to follow up? Do I need to delegate this? Do I need to add this to my task list? Over time, coordinators learn how to determine what is urgent, what is important, and what can wait until later in the day. Because once the inbox opens, the day often starts taking a life of its own. After addressing immediate requests and reviewing anything that requires attention, you are not able to focus on planned work and larger tasks. This is where much of the day to day work varies based on the time of the year. Coordinating interviews, communicating with applicants, or preparing rank list materials. Other times of the year, coordinating graduation activities, supporting your CCC and PEC meetings, or working on accreditation related tasks like your APES or your ADS updates. Some projects last a few days, while others continue for weeks or even months while the day to day work continues. Then there's an urgent resident issue, a faculty request or a schedule change, and suddenly that requires your attention. One of the best pieces of advice that I received from a faculty mentor was to always work backwards from the deadline. For example, if CCC is scheduled for May 15th, for example, don't start with the meeting date. Start with when you need the final analysis to be completed. Then determine what information, evaluations, and preparation are needed to complete that analysis. Once you factor that in and how long each step will take, you're going to then realize the work actually needs to begin several weeks before the actual meeting. That approach helped me to stay ahead of deadlines and then also to avoid last minute scrambling. Learning how to make progress on long term projects or tasks while still responding to the daily needs of the program is one of the most important skills that a coordinator can develop and can be one of the most difficult ones if you're a new coordinator. By now, you've probably noticed a common theme. A coordinator's day rarely goes exactly as planned. You may start the day intending to work on a task, prepare for a meeting. You want to update your schedules, your rotation schedules, or you need to run that case log report. The resident calls out sick. A faculty member now needs assistance setting up a simulation. A deadline changes or an urgent request lands in your inbox. One of the biggest skills a coordinator can develop is learning how to adjust when priorities shift. That doesn't mean dropping everything every time a new request comes in. It means quickly assessing what is urgent, what is important, and what can wait until later. The challenge isn't managing a single responsibility. It's managing the multiple responsibilities while continuing to move, other work forward. This is why flexibility and organization is a strong prioritization skill that are so important for coordinators. One thing many people don't realize about our roles as coordinators is how much the job really depends on communication and follow up. I want to say about 90% of our job is probably communication and follow up. As we've seen throughout this episode, very few coordinator responsibilities can be completed entirely on our own. We rely on our residents to complete evaluations, faculty to provide feedback, the chief residents to be able to communicate any schedule changes, applicants to submit documents, and the GME office to process requests. Because of that, a significant portion of a coordinator's day that the information gets to the right people at the right time. The challenge is making sure that all the moving pieces are coming together. So now you have to reach out to the faculty or to the residents or, whoever is missing those evaluations. Or you may have finalized a schedule change, but still need to confirm or still need confirmation from your chief residence or faculty or the rotation site before it can even be published or implemented. Communication and follow up are what keep the processes moving forward. We're connecting residents, we're connecting faculty, program leadership, institutional offices, and then also external stakeholders. While this work often happens behind the scenes, it's one of the most important reasons why programs continue to function smoothly. After hearing everything that we've discussed, you may be wondering, how do coordinators keep track of it all? And the reality is, most coordinators rely on a system to stay organized. Those systems may look different from person to person. Some coordinators use Outlook tasks, others use spreadsheets, project trackers. Those systems may look different from person to person. The specific tool is less important than having a reliable system for tracking deadlines, following up on your items in meetings, your evaluations, all the different things that you need to keep track of as a coordinator. Over time, many coordinators also develop templates and checklists and workflows that help reduce duplication and ensure important tasks aren't missed. No system will eliminate interruptions or the competing priorities, but having a strong organizational system makes it much easier to stay on top of the many responsibilities that come with the role. For example, I relied heavily on Outlook. I created color coded categories for each of the major responsibilities, such as I had one for evaluations, onboarding and orientation, graduation, budget and reimbursements, committee work. And, when I was a chair for AppMog, I used to have a separate category for that. I also created checklists for recurring processes to be able to delegate tasks when needed, or if, Lord forbid, I'm not here, someone else will then be able to follow the checklist and be able to get that task done. Another strategy that saved me tremendous amount of time was creating templates. Whether it was emails or meeting agendas, evaluation reminders, or onboarding documents, I tried not to recreate the same thing twice or every single year. I would do tweaks here and there, but the actual framework I created a template for. And finally, I lived by my calendar. If something had a deadline or required a follow up, it went on my calendar with a reminder. The systems that you create don't need to be complicated. They just need to be something that is consistent and reliable enough that it's going to help you to be able to manage the many moving parts or pieces that come, with the coordinator role. While every specialty in program is different, I thought it might be helpful to share what a typical day looked like for me when I was a program coordinator in OB/GYN. For me, Mondays were focused on kind of like reviewing duty hours, checking my evaluations again, following up with residents, preparing for weekly meetings. It was a day spent assessing the overall health of the program and then identifying anything that needed my immediate attention, whether it was that day or that week. Tuesdays were dedicated to reviewing upcoming block schedules, sending rotation information, instructions to my residents, coordinating any logistics, and also preparing for Wednesday didactics. Wednesdays were often our didactic day and our educational day, and I spent much of the morning supporting all the educational activities, tracking attendance, assisting faculty and residents, attending meetings with leadership and faculty throughout the day. One strategy that I developed particularly well was protecting Thursday as a no meeting day. I called it an ignore day. It worked because my program directors, all three of them, were clinically busy, so we all kind of ignored each other for the day, which was great. In reality, it gave me uninterrupted time to focus on tasks, follow up on action items from earlier in the week, process budget and reimbursement requests, and catch up on things that required concentration. Because Monday through Wednesday were really often packed with meetings for me and educational activities and the day to day requests, that protecting that time allowed me to make meaningful progress on larger tasks and responsibilities that required focus again and attention. Fridays were used to tie up loose ends, address schedule changes, complete any outstanding tasks, and then follow up on any open items that would then help me prepare for the following week. Of course, resident questions, faculty requests, and schedule changes, unexpected issues could happen on any day of the week or every day of the week. However, having a general rhythm helped me to stay organized and ensure that reoccurring responsibilities didn't fall through the cracks. Depending on the time of the year, additional responsibilities were layered on top of that for recurring tasks. While the tasks changed throughout the year, the weekly rhythm provided structure and ensured that the core responsibilities of the program were still continuing. As the day comes to a close, many coordinators take a few minutes to review what was accomplished, identify what still needs attention, and then prepare for the next day. Some tasks were completed exactly as planned, others may have taken longer than expected, and a few new priorities probably appeared along the way. One of the most important things new coordinators need to learn is that success isn't measured by whether every item gets crossed off to the to do list. Now, I'm going to admit, that was a very hard lesson for me because I love checking things off. But in GME, there's almost always be something left undone at the end of the day. There will always be another email to answer, another meeting to prepare for, another report that you have to pull and review, or another task that's waiting for your attention. It never ends. Instead, success is about making meaningful progress on the high priorities while keeping the day-to-day things moving. Before leaving for the day, many coordinators review outstanding action items and update their task list to respond to in response to any urgent messages and make a note of what needs to be addressed tomorrow. Taking a few minutes to close out the day creates another smoother start for the next morning and helps to prevent important tasks from falling through the cracks. And then tomorrow, the process starts all over again. So, as we discussed throughout this episode, there is no single typical day in GME. Every program is different, every coordinator develops their own system and workflows over time. Successful coordinators, we learn how to set priorities, monitor the health of the program, manage incoming requests, and then balance those long term tasks from day to day responsibilities and communicate effectively with a wide range of stakeholders. If you're new to this role, don't worry about mastering everything at once. Focus on learning your program, build strong organizational habits, and develop systems that are going to help you stay on track. Over time, you're going to begin to recognize patterns, anticipate needs, and then also develop the confidence that comes with the experience. Thank you for joining me on this episode of GME Compass. Thank you for everything that you do to support your GME programs. And remember, while there may not be a typical day in GME, the work you do each day makes a difference. Thank you, and catch you in the next one.